Which type of woman are you, Mother Africa, that you don't wake up from your dogmatic slumber? It's time for Africa to wake up and reawaken the question of neocolonialism and reawaken the question of imperialism and devise means of how Africa gets to be decolonized. Africa has for long been engaged into an unfair relationship. I mean an unfair relationship with colonialists that have continuously ensured that Africa is a victim of dependency. And I talk this based on some of the official documents. For example, we can take a reflection on the National Security Study Memorandum 200. This document has propagated acts of imperialism in Africa. For example, this document was promulgated by the United States National Security Council on 10th of December 1974. This was the time of President Nixon, who ordered its writing, and it was under Henry Kissinger when he was the National Security Advisor. And it's why this document is popularly known as the Kissinger Report. The Kissinger Report was written under the collaboration of the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, the United States Agency for International Development, the USAID, and the Departments of State for Defense and Agriculture. And now President Nixon was seeking to establish how America would ensure a continuous access to the resources of the developing countries. This document, under the title Implications of Worldwide Population Growth for American Security and Overseas Interests. And this document recommends that America should control the population of anti-imperialist youth in the third world. And this was the only way America would ensure a continuous access to the resources of the developing countries. And I want to say that to some degree this has been done effectively. But not until Africa wakes up to the realization that there is a need to reawaken these questions as a way of reawakening Africa from her dogmatic slumber. Africa will remain a victim of the circumstances. This document recommends that America uses four strategies to have a continuous access to the resources of the developing countries. The first one was to ensure a legalization of abortion. 2, increase financial incentives for countries that increase their abortion, sterilization, and contraceptive use rates. And the third one was to ensure indoctrination of children. And number 4 was to ensure mandatory population control by the use of coercive means, such as withholding of aid in times of disaster. But we shall realize that whereas Nixon authorized the writing of the document, he resigned on 9th of August 1974 after the widely publicized Watergate scandal. And therefore, his next president coming into power, then Gerald Rudolph Ford, on 26th of November 1975, he endorsed the NSSM 200. And therefore, the NSSM since that time has been an effective document, and until this day, American government has never come up to make any negative comment about that document or to make a disclaimer about the contents of that document, and it has informed American foreign policy until this present day, despite the fact that the CIA and the Department of State for Defense has issued numerous documents. However, the NSSM 200 remains an effective document that has ensured imperialism into what this document refers to as the least developed countries. Reflecting on the NSSM 200, leave alone the historical baggage. What is important here is how is America using this document to ensure that Africa remains in the stance. And this is very important, not until Africans can come to this realization and we begin to work our way off the hooks of the imperialists. This is how America was to cover up her activities of imperialism and avoid the charges of imperialism according to this document. It was to use the state agencies such as the CIA, the USAID, and the Departments of State for Defense and Agriculture. It mentions other UN agencies such as the UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund. It mentions the World Health Organization. Occasionally it points out the World Bank, Only that at the writing of the document, the writers were not really contented because World Bank was giving out loans to third world countries that they would develop their agriculture. And this didn't go well with the writers of the document. However, it mentions other non-state actors and NGOs. And among these, there is the American Birth Control League that finally became the International Planned Parenthood Federation. There is the United Nations Population Fund. There is also the Planned Parenthood Federation of America. And these have effectively ensured a constant population control within the developing countries. The offshoots of these have been the likes of the Marie Stopes International. These have clinics spread all over the third world, and they have ensured a continuous depopulation of the country. And this appears to be helping the third world, yet in the actual sense, it's ensuring America having a constant access to the resources of the developing world. How does this work out? In 2009, during Marie Stopes International's Global Safe Abortion Conference, Paul Cornelison, who was then Marie Stopes International's Program Director for South Africa, confesses that we do illegal abortions all over the world. And so these have continued to be instruments of the United States of America. Then how do they ensure a continuous access to the resources of the developing countries? A 2016 study by Macquarie University School of Public Health in partnership with the US-based Whit Marshall Institute notes that in 2013 alone, there were 314,300 abortions that were carried out in Uganda. This means that on a single day in 2013, 861 abortions were procured. In every single hour, 36 abortions were being carried out in Uganda in 2013 alone, from January to December. Look, this is how America will have access to the resources of the developing world. On 17th of February 2017, Gloria Nakajubi quotes a number of studies that had revealed that Uganda spends $14 million on treating post-abortion infections. Not all the pregnant mothers only post-abortion complications in a country where abortion is legal according to the Penal Code of 1950. This means that Uganda spends 50 billion Uganda shillings on treating the post-abortion complications. Who takes this money? Obviously, the multi-billion companies, pharmaceutical companies of America. Not until of late, when the Middle East is working their way to the top, that we are beginning to have a little supplies from the Middle East. But mainly the pharmaceuticals within the African countries have been supplied by American-based pharmaceutical companies. And this is how they will ensure constant access to the resources of the developing countries. Even a study by Human Life International reveals that in 2011 alone, the family planning industry of America made a profit worth $13 billion US dollars. And this translates into 50 trillion Uganda shillings being made by one company or by one category of companies. And you still ask why rich countries remain rich and why poor countries remain poor. Why they will always come with programs that from the outside appear to be good for the developing countries, yet in the long run, or yet in the actual sense, this agenda benefits them as the imperialists. And we need to begin understanding these acts of imperialism and how they impact on Africa. The fact that we are operating in a capitalistic economy, these actions have continued to keep Africa in the stance. The relationship that Africa has been engaged in for long has been characterized by manipulation, by monopolization, by exploitation, Africa being a victim of expropriation, and at its worst, being a victim of extortion. I want to say that we need to reawaken the question of imperialism and how we can decolonize our minds. Otherwise, the interventions and the agenda that have been propagated by the capitalist West will never take Africa from her stance. Africa will continue being a victim of the circumstances, and she will continue to starve, she will continue being malnourished, she will continue to be wounded, to be looted, and Africa will continue to wobble to her verge of death when she's just blood-riddled. I want to see that as Africa opens new gates from the Washington that now we are now opening to the Beijing, when we are now opening wider gates, our presidents, our ministers, as you mediate, as you witness these relationships with China, we want to say that let them not to be propagate acts of imperialism, because we have experienced it before. Let them not be like the Washington relationships. Let the Beijing relationships be different in the sense that they are not going to propagate acts of imperialism and they are not going to promote dependence. We need to see that Africa is becoming independent. But we can only see that Africa becomes independent by reawakening the questions of imperialism and neocolonialism and how these are going to ensure a continuous access to the resources of the developing countries, especially in Africa. And therefore we need to work towards decolonizing our minds. We need to work towards propagating a generation that will value Africa and that will appreciate that Africa needs to be placed in a better position.